Hi everyone, so we're live and streaming and this is our next episode of Digital Marketing Made Easy with myself, Dawn McGruer. And we're joined today with special guest Matt Wilson. And Matt is digital marketing guru, loves online marketing like myself, and is the founder of Einstein Marketer. Now, we're going to be talking about today all about how to scale and grow your business using paid ads, specifically Facebook and YouTube. And we're going to hear a little bit about Matt's story in terms of how he founded his business. So over to you, Matt. How long ago did you start your first business? And was Einstein actually the first business you started?
Yeah, I mean, really, it was. Yeah, I mean, I had a couple of little things when I was younger, but they were just that was just me, just sort of just winging it, basically. Nothing like in marketing or anything. It's before I got interested in marketing. But yeah, it was my first business. Before this, I ran a company. So I was a marketing manager in a company, and then worked my way up. Was actually director of that company by the time I left, and I ran that for 5 years. So I had a lot of experience, hands on actually running somebody else's company, which I think was my education. So that was really cool. And then 5 years ago, I founded Einstein Marketer, the agency. Yeah, so we're a paid media agency. So we help small businesses generate more leads, more sales using online strategies like Facebook ads, YouTube ads. TikTok now is obviously becoming a much bigger player. And it's plain sailing really since then.
I've seen a lot of people actually moving on to TikTok. So if somebody is looking at obviously using ads right now, and obviously most people have got like Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok's not probably as central into a lot of businesses. Which focus would you kind of think right now in terms of like scaling a business? What's the quick win? Is there one, or is there an easier route in for people looking to get leads?
Yeah, it really depends on the industry, really, and the business. But we always advise with the trainings and things like that we do here that start on Facebook. It's easier and, more importantly, less risky for businesses to start on Facebook because it's still a very underpriced platform, believe it or not, especially for things like lead gen, lead generation. You can do very low risk, meaning small budgets, and we'll get you results. We generate leads for under £1 for some of our clients, right up to sort of £10-15, again depending on the industry. But it means that you don't actually have to risk the bank to do a big big campaign on. Back in the day, some of your options were like newspaper ads, you take out like
I just found a magazine, and I think we paid £32,000 to go in a magazine, and this is like back in early 2000s.
Wow, well, that's when you did it.
A lot of money. It actually had a business card that was attached to the page, and it was a plastic card. It was when plastic business cards were all the rage. But it was really successful. But can you imagine doing that now? I mean,
yeah, well, that's the thing. Like those sort of campaigns that back in the day, that pretty much all were only options, like big expensive ones. Where if it doesn't work, you're out. You would have been out 30 odd grand. But I think like nowadays it is so much easier for businesses to get going because you don't have to risk that sort of amount if the strategy is good. So we always say start with Facebook. And then if you can get something to work on Facebook, if you're getting really good returns on Facebook, then pretty much it's gonna sort of scale out across other campaigns that are maybe a bit more expensive. So for instance, Google's going to be way more targeted because people are actually searching for the thing, but at the same time, it's going to be way more expensive. So if you can get something to work,
there isn't it? But it's a far more costly kind of thing to do. I think that I don't know. I've always kind of felt like Facebook is a nice opportunity for people to use things like the on-platform lead gen because again, it's you don't have to be a huge techie to kind of set up the ads. You can probably get your campaigns set up quite quickly and start getting results. What's your view at the moment for driving leads off platform versus the on platform lead gen?
Yeah, really good question. So, I mean, it all depends on the business and what we're trying to achieve. But we've got our biggest client, actually. Our biggest client is a company called Learn Direct Careers. They're a really big sort of e-learning platform.
Yeah.
And pretty much everything I'd say sort of 80% of the work that we do for them is all based on lead gen campaigns. And that, so in Facebook, the actual lingo for guys listening is lead generation is the objective. And if you select that, you basically get a lead form that pops up on the ad once you click it. You're not sending people away from Facebook. You're actually capturing a lead within Facebook. Now, the good thing about these is that they're a lot cheaper traditionally, because again, you're keeping them on Facebook. Facebook will always penalize you for sending or taking their visitors, taking their users away from them. You'll get punished by paying more money. So if you can get it to work on Facebook lead forms, then definitely give it a go. The things that you've got to look out for when you're doing that though is the quality of leads sometimes isn't as good, because you have to always think about marketing as intent, right? Like, what's the intent of the person? If you've interrupted them and they click on a button and a form pops up straight away, which is pre-populated, by the way, so it's pre-populated, the data first of all might be wrong, so it might not actually be their up-to-date information.
Yeah, because a lot of people have Facebook, haven't they? And their email addresses are like back when they were at university, things like that. It's not.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So like my Facebook email, I've never, studmuffin 1986 at gmail.com. I haven't used that since I was about 21.
Year.
So yeah, that's another example. You get bad data, but what you can do, so what you've got to do instead, if you are going to use them, because what they do is capture a really cheap lead, what they can do. So what you've got to think about is what you want to do with them next, because you get a really useful step when you're using lead forms, and that's like the thank you page. So once someone opts in and gives you their information, that's your lead now. You've got their name, you've got their email address, but at the end of it, they see like a little thank you page on the form, and it will say, thanks for downloading our guide, whatever, click to download it, and you get a button, you get a call to action, you get a nice little bit of space for some copy. And this is really powerful because everyone's going to see this. First of all, like 100% of your leads are going to see it. So what you might as well do is try to get them to do something else. Try to now you've paid for that lead, try to get them into your funnel. So for example, like some of our clients, they want more calls booked. So we captured a lead by giving something away for free, but they actually want calls booked. So we'll send them, click here for a, free video training on X, Y, and Z, and they can click on that. They then go to your site. Now this isn't costing you a penny. Now you've already paid, and now they're indoctrinated into your business, because there might be a video at the top with a call to action to book a call. So always have a, think in detail what you want to do next.
Yeah, because it's kind of qualifying, and we've had really good successes doing that. Because the thing is if you're giving somebody like 3-part training or something like that, they go on, they watch it, and then they'll go on to the next thing within the page. And we've been trying multiple call to actions on the page with people's, just as you say, motivations. Like they might want to request a call back, or they might want to book a call, or they might want to speak to someone at that time. And I think the thing is like, if you're giving people choices, people will take something generally out of what's given. What's been your best performing campaign then so far? What's your proudest campaign you've done?
Best performing campaign for a client, I would say there was one. We worked with a company called Sure Seal Windows, who are a double glazing firm in Wales. In the UK, and they came to us because they wanted to generate a lot more sales. They were doing really well, actually. They were doing 6 figures a month some months, but they wanted to really scale up. And their strategy was they would do lead forms. They would do lead forms, and then they would call the leads to see if they could close them. And what we did, they had this offer running at the time. It wasn't an offer; it was like a promotion. Well, basically, because of some sort of funding that the government were making available or something like that, it meant that some of their customers could get like a big saving off their windows because of energy, right? Because of being green and all that sort of stuff, and eco. So what we decided to do was let's change it up so that the quality of leads a lot better, and we actually lead with this campaign. Let's think of what we can do to get people more indoctrinated into that idea. So we actually came up with a whole new brand almost for them, and it was called Eco Funding Solutions. EcoFundingSolutions.com or something like that was the name of the site. We got a logo done for it, And now what we were doing, we weren't promoting SureSeal Windows
Yeah.
as the provider. What we were doing was we was promoting this scheme, I suppose it is, or a way of, so basically the ad was something like, look, the government is giving away millions in funding to help you get double glazing on your house, etc. Click here to see if you can apply.
Yeah.
Or click here to see if you're eligible. Something like that was the language, and they clicked on that. Now they go into a page which is Eco Funding Solutions, where we basically get them to fill in all the information that we need for a really good lead. So we're finding out how many bedrooms they have, do they own their house, how many people live in the house, how many kids have they got, all of this good stuff, and getting them to apply. And this really kicked off, like, to the point, I think when we first tested it in month 1, they spent $7,000 on ads. They made about 124 grand in sales that month. Yeah, it's a great return. And all we did was just change they were still offering the same thing. We just reframed it.
Just make it more congruent, right? I suppose if someone sees it there and then they go to the page, the message is very clear in terms of what it's about. And
I mean, all that really happened in the sales process that was different was now they were getting a call and they were saying, yeah, well, listen, based on the information you've given us, you actually are you're approved for this, and you're eligible to get this discount. So SureSeal Windows is our supplier in the area who we recommend. Go with them. And that worked really well, because again, we just thought of an idea. It was just something. And in terms of the returns they got as well, they was very, very good returns as well.
So obviously, you worked in marketing before, then you got into obviously your own business, and then you have a big event later this year happening, E.M.C.
The Entrepreneurs Marketing Conference. Yeah, so the Entrepreneurs Marketing Conference is a cool one, actually, because we've run it twice now. We run it in 2021 and in 2020, just before the pandemic, we got it in. I think our event was on the 4th to the 6th of March, and we went into lockdown like mid-March, like the first lockdown. So we just did it. Yeah, basically, it's just it's something that I've wanted to do for a long time in the UK. Every year I go over to the States to go to an event over there called Traffic and Conversion Summit.
Oh yeah,
and it's actually digital marketers.
Oh, is it?
That one you're thinking of is funnel hacking. Yeah,
funnel hackers. Yeah.
But Traffic and Conversion was just amazing. I used to go there every year, and I used to spend $2,000 minimum for a ticket to go to that. And then you've got travel, hotel. And I'd spend like 5-10 grand a year just to go to this event, because it was like so good, and I was learning so much stuff. It wasn't a sales event, so it wasn't an event where you go and you get sold from stage. So you literally just learning, and there was nothing like it over here in the UK. So I wanted to create an event like that and build it to that sort of size. So we started our first one in 2020, sold it out 250 people. Last year we were supposed to go 500, but we were only allowed 350 due to COVID.
Yeah,
I was glad we could do it at all, to be honest, because at one point we didn't actually know we could do that event until 2 months before it. Gosh. So it was very scary. It was like, bloody hell, I don't even know if we can do this, and we've got to sell it, So, and then this year we've moved it to London, and the whole sort of concept of the event is actionable, practical, digital marketing education that businesses can use and actually implement. And what I try to do is I try to get a whole range of speakers on different topics. Like you're joining us this year, obviously.
I am. I'm talking about LinkedIn.
You're talking about LinkedIn. I've got, we've got a guy who runs the biggest YouTube agency in the world coming to talk about YouTube ads, Google ads, content marketing, SEO, sales. We got Stephen Bartlett from Dragon's Den's, like one of their headliners. Karen Brady from The Apprentice. That's mainly just to sort of share their stories and get inspired. But the other guys, their one goal from me is, look, just give them something, like one golden nugget they can actually use. Show them a campaign that campaign I just told you about. Yeah, that's something that I would share on stage, for example, and I'll tell you exactly how I did it. So they quite sweet, I can do something like that and take it away and implement it. And that's the whole goal. No selling from stage, no closing and pitching.
It's all about value, and I think that's what we need. And I think the thing is like now we're back into in person, getting tickets. I'm seeing so many people craving to kind of go to things. We've got our fast track digital marketing really popular. people want to get back in person. And I think with digital marketing, there is so much, so fast paced that imagine being in the room then and just taking all the latest tips, strategies, tools away. I mean, it's going to be mega. There is a link.
Yeah.
And I will make sure that everybody has this. It's in the post. So if you are watching the podcast live, you can click on it, but it'll be in the show notes in the podcast. Now, you've told us that obviously you started your business and then it was plain sailing after that. I am sure along the way there's got to be a bit of an epic fail, Matt. You can't get away with that. So
yeah,
go
no,
on.
for sure.
I need a story from you. I need to know what has been.
There's no such thing as plain sailing. I said that very sarcastically. Yeah, I mean, one epic fail. I mean, there's been so many, to be honest. Which epic fail? Okay, so the main one really, because I run an agency, so we're service based. You know, we have clients pay us every single month, and this is pre-COVID now. So this is sort of 2019, I think it was. So, you know, 3 years into business or whatever, we had one big client. And because we had one big client, it makes it easy to get comfortable, because obviously every single month you're doing really well, but a big chunk of it anyway is made up from one client.
Bit risky.
And it's a bit risky, yes, because so this client in the end, and this was just leading up to COVID, actually, I can remember. So they massively cut back some of their marketing budget, which is weirdly what most businesses do, even though that's the thing that drives sales. That was one. And then lots of other things led up to it. Anyway, we ended up losing this client. We had, you know, a little disagreement about money and things like that, and we ended up losing this client. And suddenly, for a business that was doing really, really well, we were suddenly really struggling. And it was like, shit, you know, all hands on deck sort of thing. Like, what are we going to do to fix this? And it took us a good sort of 3 or 4 months hard graft to get out of it, you know, replace that income. So like now, for instance, I actually get, rather than, you know, loving the fact that I've got a high paying client, it sort of worries me a bit now. So, you know, our biggest client now, I look at that now and I'm saying, right, what can we do and put in place to cover us in case the worst happens? And you know, for whatever reason, that money now doesn't start coming in, rather than getting comfortable and you know, sort of taking it for granted. What can we do to replace that income now, so that if they do go, we're covered? Because I don't ever want that happening again. You know, that was a bit of a pain. So that was one. That's just one that I thought of. But again, there's so many along the way, as you know. You know,
I know.
It comes and goes. So everyone.
21, 43 now. Gosh.
Yeah. Well, everyone always thinks like it's so easy to look at any businesses, you know, and think that they're doing amazingly well, that they're not struggling in any way. But that's just not the case. One of the questions I asked Stephen Bartlett actually spoke at our event last year as well, and he's so good. We're getting back. Plus now he's on Dragon's Den and all that. He's a lot bigger than what, like, publicly bigger than audience, he's much bigger than what he was before. So we've got him back. But one of the questions I asked him, because I interviewed him on stage last year, and one of the things that I actually asked him was something similar, but I was a bit more specific. I asked him, what's the close, or how have you ever come close to having to shut the doors because you've run out of cash, for example, or, you know, or something's happened legally that's made you, you know, and he sort of looked at me and laughed and just said, wow, there's been so many times. But he told us a story about one of them, which basically what happened was 3 or 4 days before payroll, he got a call from his team, and his payroll at the time was 160 grand a month or something, right? Ridiculous, crazy payroll. And he got a call from his team saying, look, we haven't got money to pay the staff. We can't afford to pay them unless we get in I think he needed like 100 grand. Unless we get 100 grand cash in, we can't pay the staff this month. And I was sitting there thinking, bloody hell, like, you know, bearing in mind, this is a guy that sold this company for 200 million. I think he sold it for about a year before I spoke to him. And he said, yeah, this was about a year before I sold the business. And I just remember sitting there thinking, Jesus, like I remember looking at his business the year before. You know, he looked from the outside, everything's like fine and dandy. He's massive. He's got offices all around the world at this point, but he hasn't got enough money in the bank to pay his staff. And that's sort of like, again, that just woke me up to the fact that, you know, these are the things that businesses go through all of the time.
It's reality.
And all he did, you know, he come up with a plan. He said, right, you know, get me these people that we're talking to about being clients, get them all in a room with me. And he just turned up. And he made a joke of it. He said, you know, I was looking out at this room and I knew that one of these guys had to pay me $100 grand, but I weren't paying my staff, and they weren't going to feed their families, and they weren't going to pay their rent and all this sort of stuff. And he looked out and he said, there was only one thing to do. He said, shots. And he literally, after he spoke to them all, he went to the bar and he started getting them all shots. and he said, as he was getting them more drunk, he was talking to them, and you know, he was getting drunk as well, and they were getting to know each other on a personal level. And he signed a contract for an agency deal with the terms that they had to pay $100 grand up front, and he actually closed it like 2 days before payroll.
Wow.
And the money was in his bank the day before payroll. And it's just like little stories like that, you know, and it just it makes you realize that even guys like that, you know, a year later, he sold that for 200 million euros or whatever it was, or pounds, and a year before he couldn't even pay his staff.
It gives us the reality of the kind of knife edge of business, isn't there? You know, that you could be on the edge of success or the edge of failure at any point, depending on other circumstances that sometimes you can't control. And it's like COVID and all those sorts of things that happened. So if you were going to give one tip for the future, something that's happening right now, is there anything that people need to go and have a look at in terms of their lead gen?
I mean, you know, really, lead generation is all about what you're giving in exchange for that lead, giving you their information. You know, people call them lead magnets. You know, which I'm sure you do as well. It's coming up with a really good lead magnet to give away, something that you're offering in exchange for their contact information. But what you've got to do is you've got to be very, very careful with it, because lots of people teach this and they say, yeah, you know, give stuff away for free, lead magnet, whatever. But there's like an art form to get to what you give away, because what you give away and what that person gives you their information for is the reason they are joining your database, joining your list or whatever, right? So you've got to make sure without a shadow of a doubt that this person is at least interested in what you've got to offer for money, you know, whether it's your service or whatever. You've got to ask yourself that question. So I'll give you a really good example, right? If I'm an accountant, I don't want anyone on my list that's employed. There's no way I can help those people. There's no way that they will ever buy from me. That employed person will never use my services. So whatever I give away, that lead magnet, that thing that I'm giving away, I want it to make my target audience hold their hands up and say, I'm interested in what you've got. But more importantly as well, I want to disqualify everybody else that's not. So if I'm an accountant, you know, a really good name for that lead magnet, that thing that I'm giving away, would be, you know, 5 ways to save money on your tax return, a business owner's guide, right? Something like that. Because when you then ask yourself the question, why would somebody download that if they wasn't potentially interested in what I've got? There's not many reasons why they would. Like, for instance, an employed person, unless they were crazy, probably wouldn't download a lead magnet called 5 ways to save money on your tax return. They got no use for a tax return. So it's a really good qualifier, and that's the number one reason why you use lead magnets is to qualify your audience, not necessarily just grow your database, but you know, actually qualify them as well. Make sure they're the right person, and then just find a really good way of doing that. Because if you've got something to give away to generate leads, that's great. But you don't just want people on your email list. You've then got to try to get them into your sales process. You've got to move them into what I call a sales environment that best sells what it is you're selling. So, for instance, we work with a lot of businesses that need people on the phone and they need people to book appointments and things like that. So once we've captured that lead, our focus now has to change, right? Okay, we've got their email address. Great. How do we move them from there and move them into that phone environment? How do we get them to book a call? What do we offer them now to move them from there to there? And it's sort of coming up with that, you know, that strategy.
Well, this is it, because I think a lot of people fall into the trap, don't they? That they think that they've got a lead when someone signed up for an email list, or a free guide or whatever. That person's just kind of expressing at that point that they're interested in it. And it's your job then to put the sequence in after to move them from that person of interest to someone potentially who's going to buy and shorten that sales cycle. Deepesh has just said the story has just made his Monday. So that was great. I think the thing is it's inspiring, isn't it, to hear. Not that just, people are going through hardship. We don't want to hear that, but that people that we perceive obviously to be doing amazingly well, that they've been through turbulent times and things as well. So in terms of tickets, if anyone wants tickets, I'm going to make sure that the link is in the show notes. The link is in all of the places that we're streaming to. If you buy through my link, you get 20% off. So definitely do that. And then obviously you can come and see us, because it's going to be 3 amazing days. Can you just give us a breakdown of the dates for the event, Matt?
Yeah, it's the 30th of November to the 2nd of December. It's at the Intercontinental Convention Centre, which is literally next door to the O2 Arena. It's like connected to it. And I mean, it's a complete mixture, so each day there's going to be speakers, about 8 speakers each day, talking about all different types of strategies. Now, one of the things that I just want to get across is that this isn't one of those events that I want you to sit in for every single, session. It's really important that you don't get like information overload and you don't get overwhelmed, because then what will happen is you won't actually implement anything. You'll take on too much. Like, for instance, T&C, I learned that the hard way. I'd go there and try and sit in every event. If I'm paying 10 grand to go to this bloody event, I'm going to make the most of it, and I'll absorb it all, right? So I'd come back and I'd be so brain fried that I wouldn't know where to start. I wouldn't know what to implement. So now when I go, I literally will sit in maybe 5 sessions the whole 3 days. And that's what I want people to do at ours. I want them to take a look at what they actually think can help their business. Maybe TikTok ads have no relevance to your business whatsoever. Exactly. So why sit in on the subject? Instead, go to the bar, chill out with me and other entrepreneurs that are also not interested in TikTok ads, and talk and network and just have a good time. Go over some notes, catch up on some emails. We have a party. We have a party on day 2. On the evening of day 2, which is going to be wild. That's going to be brilliant. We'll have a bar in the venue. We've got a big stage. We've got a band coming down to play some awesome tunes, and all of us entrepreneurs basically just get together and network and get to know each other on a much more social level. Because I wanted the social aspect of E.M.C to be just as important as what you'll learn.
I think that's important in events, isn't it? And we've been for so long. Learning is one thing, but I think some of the biggest downloads and transformations are when you're kind of out of session chatting and you get some breakthroughs about
100%. Oh yeah, for sure.
Stories, yeah, perfect.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, well, everyone's going to see us at E.M.C at the end of November. Make sure everyone's got the links, and any mantra that you live by, any sort of statement that you would share as your final word on the podcast?
Not really. I mean, not really. I always like, say on some of my videos and things like that, I'll do just get up, get out and get it done, and that's the hardest thing in the morning. Sometimes the hardest thing is just getting up, and it's getting out and actually doing something, so just be consistent and keep pushing forward. Cool.
Well, thank you for joining us. And where can we find you, Matt, if anyone wants to find your socials?
Just Matty, Matty Wilson. It is Matty Wilson is my socials, just because Matt Wilson was taken. So Matty Wilson, EinsteinMarketer.com as well. It's just a great blog. That's all it is. That site is a blog. If you want to learn stuff, what we try to do is teach people what we're doing in our agency. So we'll take a strategy that's working, we'll write it in a blog format, and share it on the blog there.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. And don't forget to subscribe to Digital Marketing Made Easy. And you can find it on digitalandsocialmediaacademy.com. So we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks so much, Matt.
Cheers for having me, Dawn.
Thanks.